All right, we're live. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to announce that I got my IV Talk Sec portion of my podcast channel back up and running. I've been working on the Guardian 615, and I was able to find someone to come on and talk a little more educational stuff, a little more insightful stuff than just guys talking trash. So today I have my good buddy out here in San Antonio, Texas, Mr. Xavier Jackson. So Xavier, just kind of introduce yourself. You can talk about where you grew up, kind of how you got here, and uh, just go from anywhere.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm Xavier. I grew up Houston, Texas, about 3 hours from here. Pretty big city. And man, it's been a long road. Started off physics, not one of the traditional paths I think most people go on. So, kind of just ended up here by accident. I just kept finding new solutions and then going along the way. So, I guess I'll start a quick little backstory. Start high school. One of my teachers at the time made me stay after class to apply for college because at that time I was kind of like, yeah, college, it is what it is. I just want, I just wanted to hang out with my boys. Get into like this thing at Houston. We got the slab game and all that stuff, which is a bunch of cars, and it's not the most career the best career advice at all. So he made me apply to college after class, and so I got in. I was like, all right, I guess I'll go. So yeah, I ended up going. I was a accountant at first, then transitioned to a chemist. I was like, yeah, this is kind of boring, and man, I got lucky along the way. I met one of my good buddies now today, a guy named Dennis, um, another black guy. I was like, bet. We found out we were from like 15, 20 minutes away from Houston. We grew up in the same place because we are in Huntsville at this time.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, man, what's up? I ended up going to school with one of his brothers. So it was like kind of, like an automatic, like, oh, cool, somebody, from the same place,
Right.
same place.
Connection.
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
spot. So but he was way more focused and disciplined than me. I was just out there just partying, doing the most. And he was out there kind of keep me stable, like, come on, Ace, man, you gonna be studying, bro? I'm like, yeah, I got it. I like to just, push myself, I come up to the exam, and I see what I do. That took a while. I ended up retaking some classes that I finally I forgot what semester it was, but I was like, man, you know what? Partying's getting kind of old, all that stuff. Let me just get serious. So, I got a little bit more serious, and he was telling me he was about to transfer. I was like, where you going? He was like, I got to get out of here. Dude was pretty smart. So he ended up going to UT, Austin. And I was like, yeah, you know what, man? The school is a good school, but it's not for what I want to do. So I went to U of H. So we left at the same time.
Right.
And then luckily, man, U of H just so happened to have a good group of people. So I met a lot more minorities up there. There's at least about 5 or 6 of us. We all kind of just stayed together. I keep in touch with a lot of them today. We
Right.
all branched off in different places, but yeah, for the most part, I think those connections really kept me going because along the way, stuff happens,
Right.
family, and all this other stuff, and it just gets rough. So I think those connections probably are the most important thing. Yeah. Then from there, I graduated. I had this terrible job. I was bored. It was not exciting. I started off as a field engineer. So they would, we'd get in a truck, drive out over to West Texas, over near Texas Tech, kind of like Odessa side. I don't know
Mhm.
if you seen Friday Night Lights.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's school way over there, middle of nowhere. Uh, Most boring job in my life. And no internet service. We just sitting out there at a frac site, just looking at each other. And I was like, man,
This
I
ain't
can't.
it, huh?
This ain't it. This ain't it. the other people out there having fun. They're like, yeah, man, yeah, talking all this petroleum stuff. And I'm just like, I didn't, I ain't really saw it up. I mean, I heard the money was good out here, but this ain't it, real. So I ended up talking to my boss. I was like, yeah, bro, I can't do this, man. I'm bored out there. There's no thought. Everything is just, like it. I mean, I did construction work. Construction work, you got to think a little bit most of the time, but this was just basic menial tasks over and over. And I was like, yeah, I can't do it, bro. So he put me in the front office. He didn't really like that. I wasn't tripping. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna be here long. So I ended up applying to school because let's see, my buddy Dennis, he graduated. So he was applying to school also. And he ended up getting in. So he went to Princeton. He's there now.
For grad school?
Yeah, grad school.
Oh, wow.
Dude's pretty good, man. He's pretty cool. And I went here, and none of my good friends, Frietta, I met her at U of H. So she went to MD Anderson. So we all three kind of just split up at the same time to go to different grad schools. And it was like, not physically being together, but with the whole virtual thing, especially with the COVID, it was like, all right, we're still here. That's what's up. And then, that's cool. And so I'm at UTSA. I mean, we do all the hooping,
Yeah.
all the fun stuff. So I'm like, all right, man, this kind of felt like back home,
Right, that connection, yeah.
Yeah.
So, were you always into, for people listening, this talk is focused on being black in STEM, and STEM is just basically your science fields. But not only just black, but just minorities in general. It's something I wanted to talk on because there's this feeling of isolation that people that aren't in the minority group probably don't think about on their day-to-day lives. And so my question for you is, have you always been into science, or was there like a turning point, maybe like middle school or early on? Because like you said, your teacher was like, hey man, you should, go to college, and you start off in accounting. Like what was the turning point that got you into the STEM field?
Honestly, I think I've always been good at math and good at science stuff, and I was horrible at English. So it was kind of like my hate, well, not hate, but just dislike for the way that they taught English and everything. I didn't really connect to it. It was just too much writing. So I was like, let me just go over here, focus more on like numbers and stuff. And a lot of my teachers kind of realized like I was catching on to a lot of topics a lot more than the other students. Not to shade anything, but so I was like, all right, this seemed like it's working. I'll stick with it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I guess along the way, I gradually increased interest more and more as far as I've gone.
Right. Did you, so the area in Houston, did you go like a predominantly black institution in high school?
Oh man, high school. So we started off mostly black. It was a big football school, North Shore. I think they won state like 2 years ago in a row. So everything's football, mostly black people, and then the other side is Hispanic. So, it's super minority school.
Okay, because I'm from, for those, well, if you don't know by now, but for those that don't know, I'm from Nashville, and I'm from Winston County, which is a predominantly white area in general, and more specifically, my high school, especially I think my middle school I went to, you might have been able to count on your hands how many African Americans were enrolled at the school. I think besides me and my brother, maybe like, I don't know the exact number, but there was probably 10 of us total, not including me and my brother. And I never, so like for me, it was I felt this isolation like to the max. So like I was born in Jackson, Tennessee, which is like right in the middle between Memphis and Nashville. And I went to predominantly black elementary school. But when we moved to Nashville, I had this culture shock because I went from, it's just a different culture from living in a black area to a white area. So when I got to Heritage Elementary School, I didn't know how to interact with white people, like as a whole. Individually, it's just like interacting with anybody else, but as a group, as a whole, like there's certain things I did that was cool when I was in Jackson, but when in here they were like, what is this kid doing? Like, you know, and so I had this giant culture shock. All my teachers were white, all my teachers were female. So I didn't have that black male, not, you know, kind of role model, mentor, or whatever, that I had nobody to relate to. I look at all these teachers and all these people, and I just felt like I didn't fit in. You know, as a kid, fitting in is everything, you know. You know, as you get older, it's kind of like whatever, you know, you got your groups. But as a kid, like that's all I wanted was attention. So that turned into acting up in class. Like I stayed in timeout. I stayed losing minutes off of recess. Uh, but it's just interesting just hearing from other people their experience. Even though, because I'll tell you this one story. I was in, this is high school, right? Now high school got a little more diverse. Like there's a good amount of us, and you know, Nashville's it's becoming a diverse area. Like 120 people move to Nashville a day, so it's becoming diverse. So in high school, and you get other middle schools merged together when you get to high school, because there weren't as many high schools as there is now in Spring Hill, Thompson Station area. Now they got high schools in every corner, but so there was a lot of us, and it became more diverse. But I think it is my sophomore or junior year of high school. So I'm 16, 17. I'm becoming a young adult.
Yeah.
They put me in a Read 180 class. Now, for those that don't know what a Read 180 class, it's a class that you would put people that you think have problems reading, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to disrespect people that actually need this, but I'm 17. You know, my grades are fine. I got A's and B's. My grades are fantastic. But for some reason, they thought I couldn't read, right? They put me in this class. And I'm not saying they put me in this class because I was black, but my reading grades were just as high as everybody else in my English class. My writing skills were just as good as everybody else in my English class. But for some reason, I'm in this class with no, like, you know, it's not like I'm reading out loud and I'm struggling to read. I'm reading fine, but for some reason I get put in this class, right? So like, it seems like there becomes these step stools, or these become these events where you kind of get that feeling of like, I feel like I'm being targeted, or like I feel like I'm being put in here because there's just, you know, there's just that stigma, or that what's the word I'm looking for? The stereotype that, you know, black people can't read as well as white people. Yeah. And so, you know, it kind of felt like in certain situations you kind of fall victim to those stereotypes. But because I see these things on Twitter, like I don't think I've had a single African American teacher besides a PE teacher, because he was the football coach. Yeah. I haven't had a single like true straight up. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to go all the way back to elementary school. When I moved to Nashville, there was one female African American teacher, but I never actually had her as a teacher. Mm. But my mom like out to her to have her like look out for me or whatever. But I don't think I actually had a legit African American teacher to this day, except Dr. Nash.
Oh yeah,
Dr. Nash. That was what, a year ago?
Yeah,
I'm about to be 26. A year ago was my first African American teacher / professor I've ever had, just because the area, and it makes a difference because, like, you know, you feel like you connect, you could go to them for things. It's just like, you know, when you go to counselors, I prefer going. Now, obviously, I'll go to any counselor if I need help or just need to talk about something. But it's different when they look like you. You feel like you can relate. It's like, you know, we were talking to, let's say, a male African American about problems that you deal with. It's like, you know what I'm talking about. You know, like when I talk to you, when we talk about stuff just in the weight room or we're just driving around, it's like, you know what I'm talking about. Like because me and you, we walk not in the same shoes, but we walk a similar path in a similar world. Because I know you know what I'm talking about when I talk about stuff. Versus if I was talking to, it doesn't even have to be white. But if I was talking to an Asian female about some of my problems, she's gonna be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Because, and I wouldn't understand a lot of stuff she goes through because there's just not that connection. Not that that's bad, but you know, it's just not that connection. But that's just me ranting. Just kind of just explaining some experiences. So kind of getting into some, I guess, some more negative things, just to lay it out on the table. Do you feel like you've had any type of discrimination or any type of problems in terms of academia, just that you've experienced,
Yeah,
maybe based
definitely, man.
on your race?
Yeah, definitely. I when I first transferred to U of H, I sent in my transcript, the which would have been the current transcript, which would have got me into the school into the program that I wanted. When I went down, I'm from Houston, so I went home and I went to talk to the people. I was like, "Hey, what's going on? I got this thing. I got in, but you put me in a different college." And I was like, "Yeah, some other college. I forgot what, I think technology or something." And I was like, "Oh, well, we looked at your transcript and it didn't work." And I was like, "I was just on the phone with the advisor, of the physics department." I was like, "Yeah, my grades were." Like, "What are you talking about?" And I sent the transcript, which is coming from an hour away. Like Huntsville is an hour away from Houston. So I don't know what happened. And, I came back within 2 weeks and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's not showing up. You just got to come back another time." I was like, "It's been 2 weeks for you to get one paper from an hour away. Like, yeah, this ridiculous. You're most likely just not looking for it." But I was going through a lot of family stuff at the time, so I didn't really have the time to press her harder. So I was like, let me just go to the school and come. And then, man, one of the faculty members almost screwed me over big time. I almost failed the class, which
Oh wow.
was a not important class because, long story short, man, my mom pretty much passed away in 2016. So I was taking this one class. I didn't have time to do most of the work, and the other people were, there were other professors. They was looking out for me. They was like, "Okay, cool, just do the work at your own time," which the work wasn't anything groundbreaking. Especially within the grand scheme of things with the stuff we do now as research, that stuff was trivial at best compared
Right.
to what you need to do on a daily basis. But the teacher was just so strict about having things in on time. On time, it was like either complete this class or get it incomplete. So I ended up just getting like a D plus or something, and she gave me the plus. She was like, "Well, I gave you the plus, so you don't have to retake the class." And I was like, "Man,
Right.
that's a move right there." So, I talked to, and U of H is lucky because we had our advisor, Dr. Stokes, she's Black, and she knows Dr. Nash, of course, because she also wrote my letter of recommendation and to help get me into UTSA because they kind of screwed my GPA up big because, I only took a few classes at U of H because I came in with like 30 hours already. So,
Right.
the D plus hit hard. I was like, man, but it is what it is.
Right. Yeah, just power through. Yeah. For me, besides the whole Re 180 incident, I haven't had any large scale discrimination. Because surprisingly, since I got to college, 90% of my professors have been minorities, just not African American. They've either been Middle Eastern, some type of like specific Pacific Islander. They've all been minorities. So I feel like to some extent they kind of understand what it's like to be a minority in the STEM field. So I really haven't had those problems. I have had microaggressions towards my education. So you look, you know what I'm talking about when you're talking, people you might not know, you're just talking yada yada yada, and it gets, somebody asks, what do you do? And I'm already like, all right, here it comes. Oh, I'm a PhD student, I'm an astrophysicist, yada yada yada. And we're like, oh wow, like, they kind of do the oh wow, that's like, I don't know how I'm trying to explain it, but it's almost like a shock to them because I get the oh, you don't look like you'd be a scientist kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's like, well, what does a typical science, what does a typical scientist look like? Because there is no like, this is a scientist, this is what they look like. So it's like, Now, I know they don't mean anything most of the time. At least I assume they don't mean anything negative about it. It's just, and I get it. I played football in college, so I look like, a jock. Jocks aren't known for being very, very educated, which is a problem that is another talk for another day. But I work out a lot. I look like a meathead. Just looking at me, I look like a meathead. I got the dreads. I got piercings. I got tattoos. So they're like, just looking at you, I wouldn't guess you're a scientist. I get it. And then even in the science field, astrophysics is a whole nother level on its own, right? So I get it. But it's like, that's not really, there's no such thing as what a scientist looks like.
Yeah.
But now getting into more inspirational, motivational stuff, I want to talk about, so kind of for the people listening, explain. So we've been at UTSA 2-ish years, right?
Yeah.
Kind of explain what you've been doing the past couple years up until like what you're doing now, in terms like your education and kind of the nuances of like your day-to-day research and it also, before you get that, talk about some of the classes we've taken to this point, just so they kind of know like, this is serious. We're talking serious education, like serious business here.
Yeah, man. We just grad school alone, we go through the fundamentals again on a higher level, like quantum mechanics, classical mechanics, electrodynamics, stuff like that. You got the electives on top of that. So it's always a hassle just keeping up with everything with the workloads and stuff, and trying to have a regular life on top of that. It's a lot that they ask for, which understandable because you're trying to get the degree. But I guess inspiration stuff that I do. I came here, I was really big. I was just really get back into programming because I almost became a computer scientist, which funny, I found out I had a brother that's a computer scientist also, but that's a different story. So I came here and I was the one thing I wish that they would have did is include a little bit more programming in the courses instead of more so stuff by hand. And I feel that that's kind of getting outdated, with technology. So I use a lot of my spare time and free time just kind of going back and learning how can I solve real world problems with software, because that's what I want to get paid to do at the end of the day, just, maybe with a different title. So for my research, I started off, as a TA, teaching students, mostly non-physics majors about physics stuff, which was cool. It was a good experience, just having that teacher-student dynamic. And then I moved on into research, which got cut off slightly because of COVID, so I had to shelve that. And then finally last semester, I got back on to doing the research at a rate that I was more comfortable with. And I've pretty much just been building simulations with these proteins because I do computational biophysics stuff, which, just I look at a computer all day, which is kind of a dream job for me because that's what I like to do. I don't really like to be in the lab, messing with stuff because, I'll usually mess up, drop something, break something, and I just feel kind of clumsy in there. So with the computer, if I type a wrong key, I get backspace. Right. So I'm cool with that. But I think it's a pretty good path though.
All right. So I know, so I've been, we've had this conversation before, but I know you're trying to get into industry. You don't want to stay in academia. So what's the plan? So for people that don't know, Xavier's actually, you're graduating in the summer.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, we only have 2 weeks left in the semester. So you got a couple months left till you're done. Like, what's the plan? Like, what's the plan and what's the overall end game in terms of like, what's the dream job that you want to work to?
I'll start with the end game first, and then I'll work up to the plan.
Okay.
So the end game, a dream job will be a data scientist for the Houston Rockets, or that'd be a dream job. I got, possibly tickets. I get to interact with the team. I could still be in the sports and do science at the same time. But the path to get there, which the time limit for that is I'm not sure, but either way. So pretty much just learn, because there's a lot of jobs out there. Maybe not a Houston Rockets jobs. That's pretty specific, but for just learning to be a data scientist, there's a ton of jobs out there. But the hardest part is just supplying those jobs. So you have to have people with a kind of particular set of skills, which not a true physicist, not a true statistician, not a true computer scientist, kind of like a mix of all three into one. So, my plan is to learn the physics, how to solve problems real world on paper, then put that on the computer, and then combine more programming and then more stats to be a fully functional data scientist. And then from that, just get jobs, get more experience, and build more programs under my belt, get more projects under my belt, and eventually just take off from there and just kind of regular life, nothing too crazy. House, some cars, a lot of cars.
A lot of cars.
Yeah, man.
So, I'm an Astro.
Yeah.
Have we taken every class together?
You didn't. Yeah, stat man, because you took that already.
That's right, because I took that at Mizzou. I did.
Yeah.
I did 1 year of a grad school at Mizzou, so I got to transfer it. So you've taken a lot of Astro classes.
Yeah, there's not much bio courses offered here, but I'm not a bio guy.
Tell me how that is, because especially a lot of science is inter and multiple disciplinary, which just means you kind of got to know, especially nowadays with technology and just the easy access to knowledge, you almost can't be so narrow in the field. You almost got to be a little bit of everything, almost like a jack of all trades, like you talked about. So what's your experience being dabbling into the astro field a little bit?
So I started off undergrad at U of H. I took my first astro course, Intro to Astrophysics, and I did not like it. I'm just being honest. I thought the terminology was crazy. The naming and all those conventions made no sense, because I was like, why are we switching different definitions around, or whatever you want to call it?
Right.
Then some years happened since that, and I was like, you know what? UTSA got a big department of a bunch of astro courses. There's not much else I can really take. Might as well give it another try, because I'm not a materials guy at all. I definitely stay away from that. So the courses here have been pretty informational. I've learned a lot more so about application-based stuff,
right?
Not just stats and stuff like that. Kind of just how to go about solving problems, which it's cool because I can use similar thought processes for other aspects of life. So that's how I look at it. Not so much just learning that straight astro, just learning how do y'all approach the problems.
Right. Fair enough. And then this semester, I'm taking a small step in your world with the data mining, but I have no idea what's going on, not even the slightest. But I gotta know a little bit. So we've kind of gone over like the big picture. Now, what is the toughest thing that you've had to do in terms of just academics, or like if there's any adversity you've had to fight through, whether it's discrimination or not, just the toughest thing you've had to do to get to where you are right now?
Honestly, I think that's kind of a universal question. Like my toughest thing, not just in academics, besides just being a minority, has always been just, I don't know, how can I say, just social anxiety. I think that's probably been the biggest. I'm not the most social person, if the viewers know. I don't really speak much. I don't really speak much at all. It's been that way for a lot, and I kind of avoid large crowds. So just, being out there in a position to do stuff has been the most difficult thing.
Right.
Talking, in public and stuff like that. But I think the only thing that kind of pushes me to do it is because I know it's scary, and I'm like, man, I used to kind of just succumb to this before, and I was like, it's a little scary, but why not just jump? So,
right.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the biggest thing.
It's funny you say that because I feel like that's kind of how we gravitated towards each other. Because I'm not like, I'm sociable, but I don't like big crowds. I don't like going out. I kind of stick to myself. And I felt like the first day we were here, I kind of felt that from because we had the some like in some what do they call it?
Man, the
My
orientation thing.
Yeah, orientation. Sorry, my CTE's kicking in. Uh, yeah, orientation. And I think we sat at the same table or something like that.
Yeah.
And we was just chilling. And I mean, I just remember just kind of talking to you. And I think we initially connected because you like sports, the Houston teams and all that. And then it's kind of, I can kind of tell that like you don't like, you don't do too much. Like you're not too extra. Because if I'm with somebody, I feel like they do too much. Like they like every night they got to go do something. I'm like, oh man, that's cool, but I'm gonna sit this one out.
Yeah.
I kind of tell you were chill. I like being around chill people because, chill's just my vibe. I feel like that's how we kind of gravitated towards each other initially, and then you got me into all this UFC stuff. So I like watching people getting their face kicked in now. But I've said this before on Guardians of the 615 and some of my other guest speakers. For me, the toughest thing I've had I've had two things that were the hardest thing for me to get through just in life. One was getting my Eagle Scout. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my entire life because I was playing 3 sports year round. I did football, basketball.
Yeah.
I did track year round. I did basketball. Football was basically year round because I had to train for year round. And then basketball wasn't actually, it kind of was year round. I basically did 3 sports year round. And at the same time, you have to do all this stuff on the side for Boy Scouts. It's a whole podcast for itself. Like you have to do all this other stuff on the side. There's that. The second was getting my bachelor's in physics and astronomy while playing football. That's probably number one because there were 2 semesters where I didn't think I was going to make it. And I'm gonna kind of go into the backstory of how this all happened. So first, let me say when you go to play a sport at a university, especially a big university, they call us student athletes. You're athletic students. Like the sport, I'm gonna be honest. The sport comes first. The sport's priority number one because they're paying your tuition is free. If your tuition is free, they take the priority because you don't go to school there unless you're playing the sport. Scholarship, right? So when we first get there, what they do to all the incoming freshmen, this is free game for everybody. This is what goes on behind the scenes. When you get there as a student athlete, that summer you get there, they put you in irrelevant classes. They put you in classes. Like I took acting for non-majors my first summer at Mizzou. I mean, we played Red Rover, we played freeze tag, like we did all this, like we did like these skit things. We worked on improv. Like it was fun class. I loved it. But I knew I was going to major in physics the moment before I stepped on campus. But I didn't know how college worked, so I was like, they put me acting for non-majors. All right, cool. Finished 4.0 my first summer. So my GPA perfect, right? And then my first semester, I took all these general study classes, these gen ed classes. 4.0. I'm like, bet. I got a great GPA. So then they make us meet with our academic advisors on campus. You have an advisor that's through the football department, and then you have an advisor that's through the actual College of Science. So after my first year, I go to her, and after my first semester, I go to her. I'm like, all right, what do I need? She's like, what have you done? I was like, acting for non-majors. I took intimate relationships, some. She was like, what are you doing? I was like, are you a physics major? I was like, yeah. She's like, you haven't taken any physics courses. You got to take the ALEX exam so you can get placed for math. Because my first summer, I should have taken calculus 1, right? But I didn't. So that set me back. My first year of college set me back almost 2 years because I took the ALEX exam. And I didn't test out of college algebra. Well, what happened was I hadn't taken a math class in a year because of that gap. I didn't do well in the ALEX exam at all. And I'm not a standardized test taker at all. I'm terrible at standardized test taking. So not only did I not test out of college algebra, I had to take trigonometry. I had to take two math classes before I took Calc 1. And you can't take Physics 1 until you're either in Calc 1 or you've taken Calc 1. So I spent the next semester in the summer taking trig and another math class. I forget. Trig and geometry, something like that. And then I finally got into Calc 1 and I'm taking University Physics 1. This is my second year in college. I'm pushing, right? So what had happened was I took all my general study classes all at once. The only thing I had left was physics and math classes. So I'm like, okay, cool. I've caught up. I used my summers to catch up. So I took Calc 2 in the summer. Terrible idea. Because it's a 4-month class in 8 weeks. So what happened is I'm taking four 4,000 level physics, 2 physics classes, 4,000 level higher, 2 math classes, 4,000 level higher. So that there was one semester I was in advanced physics lab. I was in matrix theory. I was in advanced mathematics. I was in these super hard classes in the middle of season. I barely passed that semester just because of the workload, class load.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so my football advisor, their job is to make sure you're eligible. They don't care they care if you're going towards your degree, but their bottom line is, are you eligible?
Mm-hmm.
If you stay eligible, they keep their job. Whether you get your degree or not, you have to stay eligible. Mm-hmm. So he's like, hey, you might have to switch majors because you might not make it through semester. You might not be eligible because you won't be eligible next year because you got all these grades are terrible. I'm like, fam, like this is like, I'm not backing out because I really, really wanted to do this. So then there's that semester. Fast forward. There's another semester. I have all C's, 2 F's, right? Yeah. And the F's were, I'm like spilling all my tea. The F's were the professors. Now, I don't like blaming other people, but like they were terrible. Everybody in that class was struggling because I was talking to people I was like, I can't be this bad. I was talking to, there was at least half the class had like D's. I don't think there was a single person with a B in the class. So it was bad. And he was like, what are you going to do? You going to make it? You going to make it? I'm like, I got to. Like, you know what I'm saying? I got to make it. So I ended up finishing with all B's and 1 C. But the whole football thing it was rough, but it took me 4.5. I should have taken me 6, but I finished in 4.5. I got a bachelor's in physics and astronomy, minor in math, which is a shock because my math was terrible, and an emphasis in astrophysics. But you talk about tough. I'm sweating. I said, I'm not gonna make it. There's one chemistry class I took. I had an F the entire semester. After the first assignment, I had an F the entire semester. And I'm like, I got to figure it out because the professor, he had PowerPoints. He's reading from the PowerPoints word for word, but it's bullet points on the PowerPoint. So it's not like it's just bullet points. He's reading word for word. So I'm like, all right, coming to class isn't helping. Coming to class isn't. So I stopped going to class, taught myself the information, and I got my grade up to a C after I took the final. But I went into the final with an F, a high F. Now I'm like, hey, it's do or die. And I ended up passing it to where it brought my grade up to a C, and that was that. And because I should have taken computer science, but I took chemistry, which
man.
I know it was terrible. But I'm glad I took chemistry because the astro I do is so much chemistry. So I actually kind of needed it. But
true.
Hey, that was tough. But enough about that. So before we get on to more about you in terms of like, your extracurriculars, if you could give some advice, maybe 1, 2, however many things of advice you want to give to somebody that, especially somebody that's a minority that doesn't have that, somebody that looks like them in their field. There's not a lot of Black physicists. There's not a lot of Black scientists in general. And so growing up as a kid, you don't really think that that's an option for you. Like, if we're being honest, especially, I'm not from the hood, I'm from the suburbs, but if you're from the hood or a lower income area, the only way of getting out is either rapping or sports. That to a lot of those kids, that's the only way out. That or dealing until you make enough to get out. That's to them. That's the only that to them. Some of them that they're taught that's the only way to get out. But there's so many more ways to get out. Academics, it could be a liable option for somebody to make it out or to just make a good living for themselves. But a lot of people don't. You don't see that, and we don't think that that's an option for us because we don't see it. So, is there any advice you'd give to somebody that's listening that that wants to get into STEM? But is intimidated because they feel like they don't fit in or they have that imposter syndrome? Is there anything, you would say to them that are kind of on the fence about diving in?
Yeah, definitely. I think the most important thing to do, of course, start as early as you want, as you can. But, if you can try to tour school, if they got like a virtual tour or something, kind of like physically take yourself out of the space into a different space. And I feel like that kind of opens up the door and starts to click like, okay, I can do other stuff, especially in school with a bunch of minorities and HBCU, those are always great. You see other people that look like you in different positions.
Right.
You can't really find them where you're at. So if you have the option to drive or fly or whatever, it's tough. But if you can't go somewhere and just kind of, even people watch or something, but just see other people or go on social media and, find other people who look like you in these positions, that kind of makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. Like, okay, I'm not the first one. I'm not the only one. Other people's kind of been paving this path already.
Right.
And if you could just get this a huge hurdle to see yourself in that position, but if you kind of chip at it or, just slowly at a time, and it becomes more realistic as a picture, as a goal. So I think that would probably be one of the most important things. And the other one is just, a lot of people, you just got to figure out how to open your mind, like keep an open mind and stuff. Like, if you don't want to do something, just get out the comfort zone.
Right.
The comfort zone is really holding us back.
Oh, that's great. You had said something that reminded me of something, but I forgot it. So some advice I would give, going piggyback off of what you said, like get out of your comfort zone. That's like a huge one because I feel like a lot of people, we get so comfortable with just kind of just doing what we see around us. So if you're, especially if you ride with the wrong group or you ride with people that, that's not, ride with the wrong group and you're around that and you think that's that's all you want to do, be open-minded. Like, there's other ways. I remember what I was going to say. I think the most important thing for me that I would say to anybody is find what you're good at. I know a lot of people, they don't want to, it's just weird. Like find what you're good at. And if there's an opportunity to go to school to better that or to sharpen that, I say go for it. Like, if you're great at arguing, like that's a skill. Arguing is a legit skill. See if law school or politics is something you want to get into. Find something you're good at and see if there's an opportunity in it. Like if I know my little brother Trey, he loves video games, right? Like he loves it. Parents, they're like, video games are from the devil, right? Like it's terrible. Well, I'm just like, if he likes video games, see if he wants to like go to school to be a video designer or like work, because there's jobs for designing video games. See if there's an opportunity. If he loves video games like that, take it and run with it. Now, I'm not saying he should drop everything he's doing and try to become a professional video gamer, but let him take a course or two in digital design, something along those lines, or like I said, programming, video. Maybe you can make a video game or something like that. Or if you like to draw, art school. Like if that's what you want to do, obviously. Now some people just want to go to school, get that business degree, and then just figure it out from there. But I say find what you're good at and see if there's an opportunity for it. Another piece of advice I would give is kind of going back to the comfort zone thing is, especially as a minority, have thick skin. I feel like if you can live your life not caring what other people think about you, it'll go a long way, because you get that feeling of isolation. I used to get that feeling of isolation. It used to kill me. Now I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm the only black person in the room, I recognize it, but it doesn't bother me because I do this. You know, I know what I'm doing. I'm a master of my craft. So I've said, have thick skin. Don't sweat the small stuff. You know, if you're going through some tough times with an advisor or professor, and you think that they're discriminating against you, prove them wrong. Oh yeah, I got to deal with this, but just keep pushing through, have thick skin, and just be determined. Speaking of being determined, one more thing: what's your drive? Whether it's life or academics, like, what is your main drive to keep going every day?
Honestly, bro, it's super simple. I just ask myself, why not? And then I just do it. Like, why not do something?
Right.
If I don't do it, then I don't get the experience. So why not try it, get the experience, learn from it? So I just keep it simple like that, straightforward with everything.
Hey, it gets it done. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? Why not? It's like, why would you want to get a master's in physics? Why not?
Yeah.
Right? Hey,
yeah. That's why I'm here.
Why not? Exactly. Look, I tell you this: what people don't know, if you have a physics degree, unemployment rate I think it's the lowest, 1.5%.
Yeah, man.
So you have a 90. Oh, my CTE 90 was it 98.5 employment? Basically, if you get a physics degree, you have a 98.5% chance of being employed. Your first year out. That's your first year out of college. So you talking about job security?
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there for anybody trying to get into some physics or chemistry, anything. Look, STEM, well, the stats for physics degrees, but y'all come on to the dark side. We won't talk about engineers. People don't know physics and engineers have a rivalry.
Beef.
Right. But it's a competitive rivalry. It makes the fields better for that. All right. Now, kind of just getting into some, so like, what do you like to do in your free time? Like, what keeps you sane? What's your stress reliever? How do you relax? I already know one of the answers.
And lately, started lifting weights again. We've been hitting the gym. That's been cool. Listen to music, kind of regular stuff. Of course, I started 2.5 years ago doing jiu-jitsu, and changed my life, man. All those people say, do jiu-jitsu, change your life. I'm like, why not? So I tried it. So I stuck to the motto. Funny enough, so I'm doing 24-hour fitness in like the little strip center, they got, I'm coming out and I'm walking and I look up to the right of me and I see like a new sign. It says Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I was like, that's new. That wasn't there the other day. So I was like, all right, let me go see what's up. Walked in, I met this one guy at the master, the coach, and he's pretty cool dude, short from Brazil. I was like, yo, man, what's up? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what is this? What I gotta do? He's like, hey, just come back Sunday or something, come try it out. I'm like, all right, why not? So like Sunday before, I'm nervous, man. I'm like, man, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm freaking out. I'm sweating because the unknown is just naturally scary.
Right.
So, I'm sitting there. I'm like, all right, let me go. And I always start like, if it's something I really don't want to do because I'm nervous. Like it took me a long time to figure out this, but it's the small stuff. Like put the shoes on, put the clothes on first. Slowly walk towards the door. Okay, now start the car. I'm like, all right, now we started the car. Now we got to keep going. Now drive. Yeah, all that. So I take it step by step. So I get there, I get beat up, as simple as that. Just new guy, a bunch of people in there who've been doing it for years, just, beat me up. And I was like, man, that was kind of fun. I was like, all right, keep going back, So I just kept going and going and going. And I was going like 5-6 times a week, Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday and Sunday. And man, I've seen a huge improvement, just, overall fitness. Being a grappler is just a bunch of cardio and conditioning. So I had stamina out the world. So I was like, all right, this feels cool, man.
Right.
That's one of my hobbies. And I kind of weighted. Well, I was always a fan of like MMA and stuff to begin with because it didn't seem as scary because it wasn't a team. It's kind of just like two people. You don't have to worry about the large crowd and stuff like that. So
Right.
like, all right, cool. That's kind of like gravitated me towards it a lot more. And then there's no balls. I can't. I don't have the best vision. So everything I need to see, everything you need to see is literally right in front of you. You don't have to worry about, catching or nothing like that, which, depth perception, all that stuff gets kind of rough. So I'm like, man, this sport, I kind of feel like I fit in,
Right.
the combat stuff. So
so now I'm intrigued. So is there a time at the what they call it? Is a dojo the right word for that type of place?
You call it a gym, the BJJ gym or something.
All right. So at the gym, has there ever been a time where you like you hit like a wild move on somebody, or like you got somebody that's like some weird chokehold or something?
Yeah, man. A couple times that I had like, one of those like, wow, this is a cool move, cool moment. Each time you try to be respectable. You don't want to just be like, no, that's kind of that's not a cool move. So you just be respectable. And I'm like, man, I feel a lot better with progress, and other people will be like, man, you getting kind of good.
Bro, take me through it. Like, how did it happen? Like, take me through. Like, or did he try to like counter it, and you like take us through the what happened?
So, okay, I'll start off with there's two type of people. There's two type of people. There's people who compete and people who do it for fun.
Right.
I was kind of like in between on there. This is like right before I competed for the first time. So I was kind of training. I was getting ready. I was feeling good. And you start off, you slap the fist. That's kind of how like you start the match. And then we're going. I just, you're just like one step ahead. Like you don't really think. It just becomes like a flow.
Yeah.
That's like when you're in the zone. So it's a thing called a cowboy choke or bow and arrow choke. I forgot the name. Essentially, this back when I was in the gi. So imagine you're wearing a jacket.
Right.
And I take my hand and I grab the cross side of your jacket and I pull it, so no slack in it. Right. So now I tighten this elbow, my right elbow, and I'll yank it towards the back, and then I'll cross over it and pick up your left leg. And then you pull the jacket and the left leg towards you while pushing with your legs on the torso. So you're kind of being choked, pulled like in this weird motion, and it feels horrible.
It sounds horrible.
It feels and sounds horrible, but it is cool to pull off. It's just like, it's kind of like the realization, like, man, all that, hard work really paid off. Like, just practice really makes a difference. So,
and then you actually competed?
Man, yeah.
I didn't know that.
So, the coach was like, man, you're pretty good. You should try to compete. And everybody was like, hey, you should compete. I look athletic. I've been athletic for the most part. And, people who typically look like they can do a lot of stuff, they kind of urge them to be more active. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I go out there at like 7 a.m., I think 7:30 a.m. I go weigh in. I'm super hungry, super nervous. And I'm at I don't know if you've been to NRG Stadium in Houston, but next to it, there's like a NRG arena or something.
Mm-hmm.
Big open space. So I'm like, all right, I walk in. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is way too many people. I thought this was going to be like a small thing. So, I had to weigh in at like 7 a.m. and then the match didn't start till like 2:30. So I'm just kind of sitting there walking around. And at the same time, they had a powerlifting competition going on. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching that, and I'm like, man, these dudes kind of strong. Like, all right, this look cool. They got the little log there, log and everything. So I'm watching that, and then, so I, eventually hours go by, and I'm finally ready to go. I'm like, all right, streaming with nervousness and everything. My coach, he went off somewhere, so it was like the secondary coach was in there, kind of, he's like, all right, come on, let's go. This your guy, and it's like bang, bang, bang. There's no lead up like the MMA fights. They don't call it. They don't do all that. This is like low level. So they say Xavier and the other guy. So you go in there and the ref's right there. And then again, you shake the hand and then you go. And on that, it's like instantaneous. I was like, oh my gosh. And then, so I wasn't really thinking. It was just like, like go mode. It's like, all right, this is what I've been doing. So, I'm just, I kind of get the, certain positions to be better. And then I set up that same joke that I was just talking about earlier. And I'm not thinking the whole time. This is just all instinct.
Like muscle memory.
Yeah, muscle memory. And then everything went south after this, bro. Everything went south. So, I hear my coach start calling my name. And then I kind of like snapped out of it. And I was like,
oh, he took you out the zone.
Yeah, out the zone. I had the adrenaline dump and everything. And I hesitated for a second. And I was like, oh. And then dude reversed position, got out. Did the move that I was about to do to him to me.
Oh no.
I'm like, wait, what? What is going on? So that's how that went. And yeah, I haven't competed since. I don't have health insurance right now. My ankle was destroyed after that.
Oh, really?
After that day, yeah. It was rough. It took about a couple of days to get back to normal, but definitely learning experience.
Not the health insurance. That definitely makes sense if you're going to be doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, have some insurance. But, man, I did not know that. But that's what's up. Yeah, man. So look, I'll open the floor. If there's anything you want to talk about or bring up or ask, you got the floor.
Man, we talk about MMA. I'm big about MMA. I guess, one of the things I like about watching the sports is it's so heavy on it's kind of like basketball. Like the person, you follow their story for a long time. So just watching somebody come up and then, become great. So that kind of got me into just appreciating greatness from, what people do, like no matter what the task is, no matter, whatever they do, just appreciating how good at something is. And like, man, that is impressive. And kind of seeing that in other places in life, just basketball, professors who could just teach, just whatever. So kind of just one extra thing.
Yeah. Oh, going off of that, I feel like one of the big reasons why it was so easy for me to get into MMA, obviously besides that it's super exciting, because I'm sitting there like, I'm seeing them swing, I'm dodging myself, I'm like, oh snap. Or if you hear like a kick and it's loud, I'm like, oh. But I feel like one big thing I feel like how I was so easily able to fall into it is because, like you said, stories, and it's such an individual sport. Like you said, like, yeah, they have a team with a coach and trainer, yada yada. But like when the ref says go, it's mano y mano, it's 1-on-1. And I relate to that because I ran track. Track was my best sport for my career, even though I didn't do it in college. Track's my best sport. And yeah, we're on a team. And if you get first, you score points for your team. But when that gun goes off, it's you versus 7 other runners.
Yeah.
It's so and then it's your individual work is directly correlated to your success. Like, football, you can, if you're a receiver or a linebacker or running back, your success, your hard work doesn't necessarily directly correlate. It could indirectly correlate, but you could be one of the greatest running backs ever and you work super hard. But if your offensive line can't block for you, your success is limited, no matter how hard you work. Now, obviously, if you work super, super hard, you can make, let's say offensive line misses a block and you can make that guy shake. You got to work harder. You can make up for some of that. But if your O-line blocks nobody, I don't care how good you are running back, you're not going to get great numbers for the whole season.
Yeah.
Same with basketball. You can have Michael Jordan, when he in the 80s or whatever, before he made his championship run, he didn't make it past the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he, we're talking one of the greatest of all time to play. He needed help. They had to go get Scottie Pippen, the number 2 player in the NBA at the time. And they had to go get Dennis Rodman, one of the greatest defenders to ever play the game, for him to make this. Now, obviously, they won someone without Dennis Rodman, but he was there for a large part of that. he needed help. He was great himself, but he couldn't get it done by himself. Same with LeBron. There became a point where he had to go to Miami because this is a whole nother conversation, but you talk about super teams. If we're being technical, that Lakers team in the 80s was a super team. The Celtics team that they put together to beat LeBron, that was a super team. But regardless, it wasn't enough. No matter how hard he worked, he could do it himself. In track, in wrestling, in MMA, your hard work is a direct correlation to your success because it is only you. It is on you 100% all the way through. And so seeing that connection between track and MMA, I was like, oh yeah. Because you can literally watch the fight and be like, oh, he trained his ass off for this.
Yeah.
Like you can, just like when you see track, like when they're killing it, oh, he trained hard. And you hear the backstories, you see the highlights of them like putting in stupid hours. It's like, that's greatness. Just like with Usman, Conor McGregor, Francis, you can see the hard work they put in just from the fight. And you don't see the hard work they put in, but from the fight, oh, he put in hours. He's in better shape. He's dodging all the moves. He's not gassed out. He's the focus in their eyes, the precision. That's one of the main reasons why it was so easy for me to just watch an MMA fight and be like, oh yeah, I can get into this.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
But yeah, that stuff's great. And then for people that don't know, we're watching some fights tonight. Bellator, right?
Yeah, Bellator Fight Friday is coming back. They came back.
Yeah, so we watch fights regularly. But man, X, it was great having you on. Is there anything you want to say to anybody listening or watching before we hop off?
Everybody out there, stay great. If you kind of question yourself, just ask why not? Why not be great?
Why not be great? That's as simple as it needs to be right there. Why be great? But yeah, man, I appreciate your hopping on, X. Hopefully we can get some more in the future. We can have like fight night coverage and stuff like that. That'd be pretty cool. But thank you guys for listening or watching. If you're on the YouTube channel, I'm glad to get an IV Talks episode back up because I've been busy with the Garden 615. But y'all have it here. Y'all heard it here. And X, thanks again for coming out, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. That's it.
All right, we'll catch you guys next time.
Even if I touch a meal and do it through the pain, I don't need a pill. And life gon' get me down, but it won't break my will. Cause I've been chasing this so long, I can't give up. I won't give in, been through too much. I done prayed for the money, I done prayed for the fame. I done prayed that I will make a sacrifice and play this game. I done prayed that my life would never be the same. I done prayed